Just when you think that we've attained some level of stability on the earth, something happens. And when it happens, it seems to affect everyone. As many of you know, 2020 was this big awakening on earth. Many have left us, but many have stayed to tell the tale of what their journeys were like in the year 2020 when the coronavirus, as I like to say, plandemic, hit our planet. Now, in 2023, there has been so much that has been uprooted, a lot of truths, many headlines, and it can be difficult to navigate what is real and what isn't. And that is why it is up to each and every single one of you who is watching this video to determine, and this may take a series of days or months, what your truth is and whether these stories that have come up on the headlines on your social media are things that you want to take on as new perspectives, new knowledge, or things to just leave behind you. I encourage you all to watch this video because I will be sharing what has come through for me the last few days in relation to the Palestinian and Israeli conflict and what exactly happened behind closed doors that my guides have revealed to me. As I always like to do is discern the information. It is important in your life, you guys, to always discern what you are reading online, no matter how much you trust the source, okay? You need to discern and you need to do research, and this goes for things outside of you, such as with politics, with world events, with celebrities, with the news, okay, the media, but also discerning what comes through for your own life. If someone random or someone you know gives you advice, it is so really like this is I'm feeling a pressure on this energy to discern, okay? We really need to get clear on our discernment of information that comes through and recognize that there's so many different perspectives. There are two sides to every coin, and that means that by default there's always going to be more than one perspective that comes through in regards to what is happening in any particular situation. And so it's important, if you can get to this level of thought, to discern the information as always. So the guides have been really pressuring me to make this video. I try not to delve too deep into politics, especially when it has to do with war, because it is a very sensitive topic. There's a lot of layers to it. As a medium, I can just tell you first and foremost, our deaths are written. The time of our deaths, the date of our deaths are written, and that can be very unnerving and difficult to grasp and comprehend when we are very much focused in the life of this world without remembering that life is fleeting and that each and every one of us, no matter how wealthy you are, doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, your race, ethnic background, religious background, whatever your labels or identities are in this lifetime, death is something that is a part of this experience. And so it can be difficult to understand, and I won't tap too deeply into that topic, but it is important for me to mention here that our deaths are written, okay? Now, this does not exclude the fact that it can be difficult to witness traumatic deaths on the planet, okay? I just want to let you guys know that I am channeling, so if you see that the video is broken up and edited here, it is because I am channeling information. If it is too much for you, either slow down the pace of the video, or you can speed it up, or pause the video, consult with your own discernment and spiritual team before you tap into the messages that are going to come through here, okay? So it's important for me to mention that within the whole Palestine and Israeli conflict, we are dealing with over 50 years of history here. So before you're going to even dive in to put notice and attention to the last 3 weeks, you need to know that there's more to the story. And this is what you have to realize in your life in general. There is always more to the story. Things can be matter of fact, but there's always more than one perspective. There's always context. Like I said, there's two sides to every coin, and both must exist for the coin to even be present, for it to even be physical, for the coin to even exist. So both sides must be present for the coin to even exist. And so we have to understand that. It's important to know the context here, okay? What we're dealing with is 50 plus years of war history between Israel and Palestine. Now, the Jews that were leaving Germany during the Holocaust, that were being severely oppressed during the Holocaust, actually ended up in Palestine at one point. And they did not want their rights as Jewish citizens that had been stripped away based on their faith alone because of the Holocaust at that time to be taken from them once again. So that's a portion of Jews that ended up in Palestine were fleeing from the Holocaust. Another portion of Jews that ended up there was by military occupation, and those Jews were not necessarily Jews that were particularly living there. There is a good number of Jews that were living in Palestine, but they were people that chose to occupy when the war started. Now, it's crazy to me, just many of you guys agree with this, how we are in 2023 and we're still fighting over land. As we know, the Middle East is a mecca of sacred land. Israel is very sacred land, as well as Palestine. And so both countries had for so long fought over whose land is who. But we need to realize that in modern times, if a war is still going on when there's plenty of money to go around, because you have to use your logic here, money is something that can be printed, then we need to realize at the same time that actually this is because of something else. At this point, if there is still a war going on, it doesn't have anything to do with whose land is who as much as it has to do with what's on that land. It doesn't have to do as much with religion as people think, as much as it has to do with what's on that land. Now, there's multiple layers to this, okay? Because this war is like a game of telephone. We have seen in the last few days on the headlines from people that some of us know that are actually news reporters on the ground, and from the stories of our families that even live in either Palestine and Israel and are being directly affected by this as they are on the ground. They are experiencing it firsthand in front of them, what is going on. So many of you have been receiving different information from different parts of the two sides of the coin. And because of that, we have to realize that this, like anything in life, is a game of telephone. Because Palestinian ambassadors have said Hamas, which is being classified as a terrorist organization on modern news, on the media, and by the reporters that are witnessing these deaths on the ground, are actually not representative of the Palestinian people. This is what Palestinian ambassadors have said. The people who work with Palestine as government officials, they are saying Hamas is not representative of the Palestinian people as a whole. But as I mentioned earlier, this has become a game of telephone where so many people are receiving different information. Now, what was revealed to me is that Hamas is actually not all Palestinian citizens. It is actually a group of militants, of people who use Islam, the religion of Islam, as a scapegoat for why they are making these decisions to attack other people. So I need to remind you all that Hamas is not, and this is what was channeled to me, and this is what the knowledge that I've received, is not all Palestinian citizens. In fact, I have received information that it is actually comprised of some citizens that are from Europe. I'm getting Belgian, Arabs, and also they're not all Muslim, by the way. Some of them have converted to Islam for this cause, is what I'm hearing, okay? I'm also hearing that there are 2-3 people that were part of this closed door conversation that are from Morocco, which happens to be where I'm from. So it is a country in North Africa under Spain, if those of you who do not know the geographics there. But this is to remind you that terrorist groups are all over the world. They are in the US, they are in Asia, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, they are in the Middle East, they are in Europe. They are comprised of people from different pockets of the world. So it's not always of the same nationality, and we need to keep in mind of this. These terrorist organizations, however you want to label this, the intent of them is terrorizing, and therefore that is the label for what is being chosen. Because the fact of the matter is, this particular group, I was shown a closed door conversation of 10 to 12 guys in a closed room. I am seeing a woman who has the complete clothes off. The burqa, I think is what it calls. Her eyes are showing. She's one of the wives of the husband that's bringing tea into the room. It's a closed room. I can see that the wall is completely sanded off. It's almost like a dark tan color. You could think of it almost like the inside of the pyramids. That's kind of the picturesque that I'm getting of a wall. It's a very enclosed space. It almost feels like tent-like is what I'm being shown. 10 to 12 guys that were in this room that were having a conversation that planned this attack. They were given money by a special military group within Iran, and they were also coerced by the American government. So this is not a conspiracy. They actually had this planned for months. Why? Because the peace festival that they initially attacked was being held at the border between West Bank, Palestine, and Israel in this deserted area. And what's interesting is that the peace festival is comprised of people from all over the world, including American citizens, European citizens, okay? They came together for the intent, the initiative to bring peace. However, I can tell you that I can feel the energy of some of the people that went, and before they even boarded the plane, they had a bad feeling, because I can hear the conversations, like, I'm not getting a good feeling. I can even see fights erupting between different almost friend groups, party groups, before boarding the flight to get here. That is the energy revealing itself to that timeline that they have now entered before the event would take place. What's going on is that these 10 to 12 guys, these gentlemen, had a conversation in this enclosed space, and some of them have connections, private connections. I can see that it was someone that has a connection, familial, almost family familial, with someone who works with the Iranian government. And then another, so all of the government, although the Iranian government is perceived to be quite corrupt, and it is, not everyone is involved with this level of corruption. So both of my ears are ringing. Actually, I feel like I'm being tuned out right now of the space. So this is my indication for my guys of the truth of this. So please take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So essentially, there was a closed door conversation, and so these guys, these Hamas militants with the intent to harm, were provided the funds, they were provided the weapons, not only by the special connections. 2 or 3 of the guys have these special connections with Iran, but it was also planned months in advance. But I'm seeing the conversation, right, the pre-plan, like the pre-meeting right before the attack happened at the Peace Festival. So they knew that this was going to go on. The Peace Festival was planned well in advance. I'm seeing that it was planned in advance. It was advertised within the region. So Europeans knew of it. Any of the Americans that were very aware of these sorts of festivals were made aware of this, okay? And I'm being told that there are millionaires that were there as well, people who were very well off that were there. But also, it's important to keep in mind that there's a lot more foreigners as well. There's Israel, a big number of Israeli citizens, Palestinians were there, people from other Arab nations, but also a big number of foreigners were there. And I don't know why they're showing me that there's a level of millionaires that were there as well. If you're watching this on Instagram, please head to YouTube to finish the rest of this channeling. So then, after this conversation, what essentially happened was there's a special force of American, it's almost like American government officials who were very high up in the ranking financially. That's probably why the millionaires thing came through. So these are wealthy people within the American government that they're almost like not even holding a position within government, within the White House, the Capitol, none of that. They're actually way higher above that. It's almost like I'm getting the DOJ feeling around this, Department of Justice. And there will be justice that's going to be brought to this situation. But essentially, what happened was they were also funneling money to Iran, but also funneling money to this group. There's connections. I'm seeing a very close tie connections between an American official and Iran, 2 or 3 Iranian officials, and then the 10 to 12 gentlemen that are there in that space. Some were volunteers, some were recruited. This was planned in advance. And so they knew that the Peace Festival was going to go on. They knew that this was going to happen. Because it was so close to the border, this was their chance, and this is what they took advantage of. They knew they've been trying to plan some type of attack is what I'm getting around this conversation. I can hear Arabic language very heavy. So what's happening right now with me is that I'm actually feeling a sense of astral projection, like I'm going back in time and seeing this space. And this is exactly what was showing to me the last few days. My guides have been really pushy about this, you guys, extremely pushy for me to channel this message through, telling me that I need to go sit down and record this because of what's coming through around this. I've been distracted with everything in my regular day-to-day life, and I keep getting reminded of this. Now, I don't always channel about politics, but this is what's coming through. So again, take what resonates. If you take it as entertainment, or if you don't, you get to decide how you want to take in this channeling and choose to create a new perspective from that a sense of peace of what's happening, okay? Because on some level, we need to understand what's been planned here. And because this is a game of telephone, war is a game of telephone. The world events, I should say, is a game of telephone. What's happening is they had this small niche group of 10 to 12 fighters is what I'm hearing. They classify themselves as fighters. There's a word that's martyr fighters, okay, that's coming through. the militia. They're militia martyr fighters. They think that they're going to go to heaven for what they're doing. But so the intention around this is that this small niche group was not intending to make this about Palestine. They had no conversation about fighting for the Palestinian people in doing this, which anyways, killing people doesn't make you a martyr. It doesn't justify. You are only a martyr if you accidentally, unexpectedly die in war. Or if you are fighting for your land and you make the conscious choice to stay put when there is war. I'm being told that doesn't really make you a martyr. You're fighting for your land, but land is fleeting. It doesn't belong to us when we die. But it's all about intention, and only the Creator knows. Only God can judge us. But I'm not getting that you are a martyr if you are making the conscious choice by saying, I'm fighting for Palestinians, so let me go take another soul. Let me go murder someone. That does not make you a martyr. That will not guarantee you heaven. And that is the thing. If you are claimed, like there's this, they're almost delusional. They have this diluted imagery of what it means to be a martyr. They're a martyred militia fighter group, that's what they're labeling themselves as. They're not martyrs because they made a malintentive decision not for the Palestinian people, and even if they chose to do that for the Palestinian people, that would not make them martyrs. And some of you guys, I'm being encouraged to show, need to really look up the definition of martyr. A martyr is more so someone who has fought in war. They went and fought in war and they died unexpectedly. And even if they're fighting for their land, like even American soldiers can be considered martyrs if they're going to Afghanistan and they were killed unexpectedly if they stepped on a bomb, for example, in the middle of a field. They stepped in a minefield. But choosing to liberate Palestinian people by saying, okay, I will now go sacrifice. It is not anyone's job to make the decision to sacrifice another whole soul. Only God can make that decision. Only the Creator, however you associate, the higher powers that may be, are the ones that can decide when it's someone's time, not another individual. Now, on some level, we have to remember that our deaths are written, okay? So that is something we have to keep in mind. It's a little bit deeper than that, too, because some people can be taken too soon. At some point your death is written, but even then it could still be considered their life was taken too soon. And if you believe in reincarnation and returning to the land, which all the monotheistic books actually say, but it's not really taught, it's seen as taboo, they will likely, a lot of these souls might likely come back with the new generation. But there's a lot of levels to this, layers. There's an understanding that the people that are in places of war have also served to awaken us in the Western world, in the developed nations, to the corruption of the planet. And so they in some way serve as martyrs. The innocents that die serve as martyrs because they are the ones that are helping the Western world awaken. But if anyone who has chosen to murder anyone in the name of God is not going to be considered a martyr. You're not considered a martyr even if you say God's name before you do it. That's actually so sinful and embarrassing to the Islamic faith, to any faith. If you're saying God, praise God before you murder someone, maybe before you kill a fly, because the fly, you're scared of it, okay, I can understand, or a spider in your space, you want to say like, God, please protect this soul, I'm sorry, go to the light. But a human being, a soul, that's not martyrhood, okay? That's not fighting, okay? So I just want to backtrack the energy really quickly back to this. So these guys think that they're martyrs, that they're fighters for the cause. They were not thinking about the Palestinian people. And like I said several times in this video, this has become a game of telephone. So what's happening here is that this game of telephone has circled around to where other Palestinian people that are close with these Hamas militants, this group, have actually been misguided as to the intention of these fighters. I'm actually feeling that the 10 to 12 guys misled a group of their own social circles around them. And this is how the game of telephone works. They misguided the social circles around them to the point where people had the wrong impression. The information was changed like a game of telephone to where they were thinking that this was the fight for Palestine. Now, you have to remember that a lot of these people are in a level of consciousness. The people that got involved, that were getting involved with the killings of the Israelis, of the Americans, of the Germans, of whoever was at the peace festival, and even beyond that with these continued attacks in the name of Palestine, many of them that are saying in the name of Palestine are not aware that the initial intention of of this is not for the fight for Palestine, for the land. The thing is that they're claiming to be martyrs, but that's not what's going on. If you want to take a soul, war, the fact, if it becomes tit for tat, if it becomes revengeful, only God can decide the karmic return, the return of justice. When someone does someone wrong, only the Creator can decide. No citizen, you are so egoic and lack humility. How dare you to decide it is your right to take a soul? That's not how this works, okay? God is the one that will decide when it's someone's life debt, karmic debt, for them to be ill, for them to have just go down the drain in their life. Everything happens for a reason, and we have to remember that. But ultimately, we need to remember that these people that are fighting for land and doing this tit for tat thing and saying, well, more Palestinians have died over the last 50 years in this war where Israeli soldiers have come to Palestine, have killed, have bombed. It is because, and I'm being reminded this message, thank you, Spirit, of hatred of the land. Tit for tat does not get you justice. It does not bring justice. And I think a lot of people have a deluded thinking around this where, well, more Palestinians died, so this killing is justified. That doesn't make you a martyr. That doesn't guarantee you heaven. That doesn't guarantee you justice. That actually makes things worse. When was it ever okay? Please use your critical thinking is what I'm being told. When was it ever okay in war, in history? When was it ever okay to fight war with more war, to fight killings with more killings? When was that ever okay? Because you know if you do that, it's going to make it worse. And so what happened was Israel should have just said, okay, they should have mourned the deaths and they should have retaliated by fixing this war, because they ultimately have the upper hand in this war, land-wise, occupation-wise, because Palestine, which once looked like the Western worlds that we see today, that once looked like Tel Aviv, once looked like, Amman, Jordan, or London, UK, or Washington, D.C., however you want to claim, whatever westernized city, updated city, Palestine used to look like that. And because of the war, based on the decisions that government leaders, the people that are in positions of power, such as Netanyahu, such as the president, were the ones who decided to make the decision to push the button. They're the ones that the direction their soldiers. First of all, their soldiers are just following orders. Some of them don't know. Some of them don't understand. Some of them don't have the consciousness to grasp what is good, what is right and wrong. Some of them do, but they're too fearful because of what country they are serving, or they've been taught something else. Just like when you meet people who are racist and you wonder, how is this person so racist or so ignorant in these modern times? It's because they literally were not raised to see other perspectives. That's why their mind is so closed off. And so to people who are justifying these killings, saying it's a tit for tat, more of us have died and that's why this is okay, there's a closed-mindedness there that will actually, I am being told very much, and this a very, very heavy energy in my heart is going to return back to anyone, even in the Western world, who thinks that tit for tat is okay. You will be prepared to learn this tit for tat lesson, okay? So when we go into the conversation, this was planned. There were coercions, there were manipulations with close friend circles. This became a game of telephone outside of the 10 to 12 guys that were having this conversation. I'm being returned to this woman that was wearing the burqa. She was hiding her identity. Her husband said to hide her identity so she wouldn't be found after the fact, because I see that her husband is still alive and they're trying to make an escape. I can see that she's bringing tea to the guys before the conversation. This is very, very interesting. She doesn't normally wear the burqa is what I'm getting. She wears a hijab, but she doesn't know, but her husband told her to protect her identity in this cause. And I can see that almost this gentleman was the one whose wife is serving the guys tea when this final meeting was being had before they decided to attack. Okay, there's an awareness of how bad this could be, but still being manipulated and colluded. I can see a lot of dark energy around this room, almost like an entity attachments to many of these guys. There's a collusion. And back to that conversation about racist people, their minds are so closed, and that's why they don't understand other perspectives. This is exactly what's coming through. Okay, these people have a very closed-mindedness, and there's entity attachments, possessions. I can see a lot of that in the space that's actually getting attached to these people, who then decide to play a game of telephone and manipulate through word of mouth to circles around them, and that circle around them, which then ultimately ended up becoming a conversation of fighting for Palestine's freedom, which then led to this propaganda around the world of all these Palestinian or Arabs or people in general who want to say, I side with Palestine. You have become a victim of propaganda, of rumors, of gossip, of misinformation, if you are choosing to play the game of telephone, okay? Because everything that is said, you have to take it with a grain of salt, and you really have to do your research, and you really have to know where it's coming from, because this is what's coming through. It's like, and even with this video, please take discernment, but this is what's coming through, okay? This is a very manipulative game, tacted with money and with almost representation from other countries is what I'm feeling, and financial, like the money is involved here, and it's almost like funneled. What is that? Money laundering, like money laundering was somehow involved here. And now the war stems back from the land, where Israel would always say, well, we are claiming the land of Palestine. Palestine was full of riches, but we have to look at the entire Middle East. The entire Middle East, because it's so sacred, it's actually sat on top of sacred land. And so because of this, because of how sacred it is, there's oil, I'm seeing fossil fuels, like resources. I'm not sure of the language around that, but very, very like oil, but there's something else like coal or some type of rich fossil fuel. There's gold. There's also plants, certain plants that can be sold as drugs in the Western world, kind of like in the same way that Afghanistan has access to opium. I'm kind of seeing that. So it's almost an abundance of resource in comparison to the vineyards in Italy or the olives in Tunisia. Like it's beyond that. It's like there's resources underneath the whole Middle East that is filled with, it's a sacred land, okay? And so because of this, especially in Palestine, there's something deeper underneath there. And so they just want to wipe out, it has less to do with religion. There's remember the game of telephone. People will make it as the game of religion, but it has less to do with the game of religion in these times as much as it has to do with what are the resources underneath the land. And so, but these conversations, the attack was done because of conversations that were being had, this delusional psychological misinformation, misunderstanding within self, within the mind, and of course the intersection of entity possessions that were attached to these people that were in this room, who thought that by saying in the name of Allah, praise God, that we're sacrificing, we're becoming martyrs because of this, when in reality that's not the case. I actually feel that there was a lot of coercion that was in place here, and of course I'm being shown the recruits from different parts. They're not the people that started this. The group that started this were not all Palestinian. So this is very interesting that's coming through. So this has become a game of telephone, of misinformation, and we need to realize that this has also been a war that has been going on for 40 to 50 years, and it doesn't justify the tit for tat, but we need to know the history behind it. That Palestine has been attacked for so long, that it's been in a constant war. It's been in a constant war with different militant terrorist organizations, and that's why we've had at some point American troops that were there as well. I'm not sure if they're still there, but I do see that, around the region. And so this is what's very challenging, is because now what we're seeing is a lot of these justifications for the killings, and so that now has to cease at this point, okay? Anything else, Spirit, that's coming through in this moment? I want to just say really quickly, Archangel Michael is here with me right now. I rarely feel him with me channeling, so this must be a very big channel message. Thank you so much, Saint Michael, for being here. Okay, so Archangel Michael for some of you guys, and Jibrail, Gabriel is here as well. I can feel them very, very powerfully, and Sandafon, one of my spirit guides. Okay, thank you so much for being here, guys. So anything else that needs to come through for the collective in regards to what's going on right now? So this has been, we need to look at the propaganda, okay, and I'm being told about the importance of discernment. Okay, so 3 things that I'm being told to share to take away from this video. Number 1, our deaths are written. Even when it is unexpected experience from a soul, our deaths are written. Our date of our deaths are written. So if it's unexpected for that soul, or it's obviously death is unexpected for any of us, but if it's unexpected for that soul, meaning that when they die, some souls might be confused, like, wait, I wasn't supposed to leave this soon. I thought I was going to have a couple more years. Sometimes things change in astral, and that's when reincarnation might take place, if you believe in that. There's a lot of proof of reincarnation, of course, so, take what resonates. But beyond this, I need to also, okay, so now I'm being redirected back. So our deaths are written. Okay, even if it's unexpected for also the family members, our deaths are written, and that's something that we need to keep in mind. So the people who have passed away unexpectedly, no matter what is their religious, ethnic background, where they're from, it doesn't matter. And we're going to separate from those labels, because a person is a person, okay? Dying is dying. So, you know, the people who have lost their lives because of this conflict in the last few days are actually people who I can feel some of them will return back. Some of them will serve as spirit guides for their family members that are still there, still in the region. So, you know, when we have a passed on loved one, a passed on loved one can become our guide. So that's kind of what's coming through. Yes, and okay, so the second, so there's three things. So the first was the death. The second, death being written, okay? All our time till depart becomes written. Even if it changes, okay? We won't know that, but it is written, okay? Number two, it's important to remember that war, that world events is a game of telephone. And so there's always an initial closed door conversation that is being had between a group of people, which then changes by word of mouth through the intention of what they want other people to hear and know. And that's how the game of telephone works. You tell one person a piece of information, and then that next person tells the next person a piece of information, and somehow by the 30th person, that information that was told by the first person to the second has now become a whole different story by the 30th person. So this is what it is. World events is a game of telephone. Number three, it's important to remember the history behind this, and that a lot of Palestinians have been dealing with this issue for so long. Me saying that is not to suggest or justify what has happened in the last few days with the many Israelis that experienced a surprise attack at the Peace Festival or its the surrounding areas from the continuation attacks coming from the militaries, the militant groups, from whoever is choosing to kill, okay? The people in power that are okaying this. Me saying that is not justifying, but it's important to know the history, because this is an issue that has been happening for a very, very long time. Israelis should probably know this. I think they do learn this in school. I honestly think this has become a part of their history, and I'm not sure how it is taught or how it is worded to them, if religion is being used, or if it's just been told by this war has started from the land. But it's important for you all to remember, and I'm being told by Archangel Michael specifically right now, there is something underneath the land, the holy land of the Middle East, of Palestine, of Israel, of Gaza, West Bank, of the entire Middle East, that is very, very sacred to, I'm hearing, to end times, okay? So, to end times, Michael. Saint Michael, do you want to elaborate? We are not in end times yet. So I'm seeing this angel. I have chills, you guys. Wow. Okay. Literally, I have chills. I can see, thank you so much, Saint Michael. Oh my gosh. I've actually never experienced this like this. So my whole right side I have chills. Okay. Literally, that's crazy. So he's saying no. So he's saying, I'm seeing him go like this. So we are close. We are close, but we are not going to see that for probably another 3, 4 generations, 5, 6, 7 generations. So we will probably, those of you who are millennials like me, will probably well gone before that happens. But I'm seeing this. So this could mean 300 years. It could mean 200 years. It could mean, you know, we won't know. And that's up to what happens on the planet, obviously. But I am seeing that the holy, because he's telling me to and showing me the imagery, and my third eye is really, really vibrating right now, that is holy land, okay? So the entire Middle East, a lot of people think it's just Israel, or it's just Palestine, or it's just Saudi Arabia where Mecca is. It's the entire Middle Eastern region, which if you think about it, makes sense, since there's so much attack in the Middle East, so much war, and American government has been a huge part of that war, specifically the presidents in the past that have made the executive decisions to send our people there, our soldiers there. Now, everything has its part. Everything plays its part in this world, 2 sides to every coin. So the good and bad plays its part in the end of what needs to be experienced, because unfortunately it takes loss for many of us to understand and appreciate life, or to understand what's happening in the world. And so for so long, Palestinians that have wanted justice might be justifying what's happening by the game of telephone, because they think that this is justice when they might not even know how this even started. Those who don't have access to internet, or those who do but are not really aware of what's going on. Even those of us that are in the Western world, that are in America, for example, that are seeing what's going on, those of you that are trying to justify that this is justice for Palestine, could be caught in the crossfire of the game of telephone, of propaganda. And although I know that everyone should have good intentions, we need to remember that innocent people dying is not justification for this tit-for-tat game. When you get in the game of revenge, okay, Michael's saying on number 4, so I guess there's 4 things, okay? So number 4 is that this back and forth revenge and trying to give karma before the natural order of karma is due, is owed, I'm hearing, is not going to play out well for anyone in the end. So guys, thank you so much. If you have continued to watch this video from Instagram to YouTube, I thank you. If you're just seeing this video on YouTube, I thank you. This is almost a 40-minute video, and I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Right now, there's not any more messages that are coming through, but if I receive any more, I will let you all know. Please understand that we cannot generalize nations. We cannot generalize people by the religion that they have, but what country they came from, by what nationality they are, or what language they speak, or where they come from. We cannot generalize, because every single soul has a different brain, has a different thought process. You know, and I'm being told the example, like, how would it feel if someone looked at you and said, well, everyone with brown or blue eyes or green eyes or hazel eyes or two different color eyes is like this? It would not feel good. So you need to remember that we cannot generalize a whole nation based on the decisions that are made by political agendas and by political leaders. We need to look at the individuals, because everyone has their own soul, everyone has their own brain. Everyone is experiencing life on earth in their own way, and how they receive information is how they will be judged by that information, how they choose to take action on that information at the end. But not everyone is the same. We're all the same in that we experience the lesson of loss in this life, as we do experience a lesson of love to some degree, but we are not all the same in the sense that we all have our own individual unique journeys. And so it is not okay ever to generalize based on anything, any label that someone uses in this lifetime, because we need to remember everyone is on their own individual soul journey. All right. If you want to book a reading with me, please book through my calendar. Link is calendly.com/yazyaish. You can find the link directly through my link in bio on Instagram and Twitter. Again, at Door to Value. I thank you all. Please take it easy out there. Pray if you can for anyone who is caught in the crossfires of political agendas across the globe, and send your love and light your way. However your spiritual faith-based practice is, just take a minute, okay? 60 seconds I'm sure you could give to just close your eyes and say, please, Creator, God, all the beings of unconditional love and light, all the beings of white pure light that are out there, please protect humanity that is stuck in the crossfire of political agendas, of hatred, of war. All right? Thank you guys so much. Sending love and light.